Welcome to Sober Shenanigans. Real talk and real recovery, sharing stories, old and new, trying to stay on the right path and help others just like you. So feel our flow and get on with the show. Here's your hosts, Stoff and Primo.
We recorded Stoff, and with me today is my main man, Hunter Grand Primo. What's going on, Primo?
Hey guys, how you doing? I got to tell you, a little disturbed this week. I'm not in the best of moods. I went to Costco, okay, and so I'm going into Costco and I'm walking through, and there's neck cream on the aisle, and I'm like. And I'm looking around. I'm thinking, I'm a little bit older, and I'm starting to get, And I'm like, I'm having a little bit of a vanity issue here. So I'm thinking, I don't think, my wife would appreciate me if I did this, so that, I tried to blame it on my wife why I was buying it. This whole justification that I was working it, and it's a little disturbed, but I did get the Met cream, and it's actually working pretty well. But I had throat cancer, so I had this radiation on my neck, and it's always had this I'm prematurely aging, and I'm like, I'm gonna go get some surgery or something on this. I don't want to have one part of my body look really old and decrepit, and the rest of it's okay. And
yeah. So
anyway, we'll see what happens. I might get the surgery yet, but anyway, I was a little disturbed. I thought I would share that with you. And
anybody buying neck cream is disturbed at this point, I think.
Yeah, I hope that they have it out there.
Yeah, well, I was like, either that or I have to get a circumcision for my neck. All right, that's it. That's all the material I got, guys. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's a good start. Well, with us today is Mike T from Clearwater. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's just a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here. Mike goes back with me to my very first meeting at our regular meeting spot, the warehouse. And actually, in my big book, I keep the list of names of the men that were there that day, and Mike is on that list. So I am really glad to have him here, and I think a lot about him, and I thank him a lot for my consistent sobriety, and I think he's a good example to a lot of us. So really good to have you, Mike, and I can't wait to hear your story. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mike. Thank you. And you are definitely an OG. When I walked into the room from another area, I could recognize that your program was intact and you were doing the deal, and I like your shares. And so I'm like, I've been eyeing you up. I'm like, I don't know if he'll come on here, but you're kind of a savage. Your stories are great. So I'm going to let you share or let it rip.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, Mike, if you would just casually come into your story, where it began, and what you'd like to talk to us about today.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the fact that you guys have this format to do it, and congratulations on almost hitting 10,000.
Thank you.
That's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I thought it was 1,000, and I thought that was impressive.
I have to work the steps all over again because my ego is going crazy.
Well, to give you a little bit of background, basically, I'm married, beautiful wife, almost up on 30 years, 3 kids, live here in Clearwater, Florida. We came down when her parents got sick, maybe about 15 years ago, and we haven't left. Kids have gone through high school, they've gone through college. I left my career in hospitality after 30 plus years, or I'd like to say I drank my way out of my career, which would be a truer statement. And then sort of floundered and, went into furniture sales and retail with another company here. And then extremely fortunate, I took a leap of faith and joined a healthcare company, sitting behind a desk, working. Almost got fired because I was clueless as to what I was doing. I lied my way into that job, as I have done on many, and telling them I could work with 3 screens going on at the same time. I couldn't even turn on the computer. I had to actually have people help me to do that. So that sort of gives you an idea of who I am as a person. I like to say sometimes that I'm a poser. On the outside you look good, on the inside you're dying.
Yeah,
and that truly was me. So when I look at it, I look back at my my drinking history, and I've had a lot of opportunity to do so. I sort of equate myself to a character, Dorian Gray. in the picture of Dorian Gray. I don't know if you know it, but it's a really old movie. I saw it when I was very, very young, and it stuck with me. And the premise is that he basically, there's a young, good-looking gentleman, and he wants to stay youthful his whole life. And for some reason, he's granted that wish.
No neck cream?
No neck cream.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Everybody's autobiography, the guy's good looking, by the way. We never, no one ever picks an ugly guy to do their.
Well, I mean, I basically, I was like, God, I pictured that, and I thought, wow, what a great statement. And then, but the twist on it is that everything that he did bad, his portrait would depict his rottenness. And it got worse and worse, and he had to take it up into the attic, and he couldn't stand it. And basically, that is a metaphor for my life. On the outside, I looked good. I was employed. I was friendly. I didn't have a problem with dating. But on the inside, I was dead. My soul was dead. And I say that, I don't say that very lightly because, I was thinking about some of the things I've done, and, they're just egregious. I did to my family of origin, basically, to give you background, I was born in Spain and adopted it from an orphanage and lived in South America for a couple years, about 9 years, country club living. My father retired up to Florida, and my formable years are up here in Florida.
Do you speak 2 languages?
Not at all.
Okay.
I'm the only 4th grade Spaniard that failed.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, just to give you an idea.
Right.
So, with that said, I was never grateful. I had a sense of entitlement, and I know that now. But when I back then, I didn't. I just, everything was pleasure.
Yeah.
If it gave me pleasure, I took it. I stole it. I didn't care. If it was yours, it was mine. I did that, and I caused a lot of grief within my own family. To me, alcoholism, didn't take place till I was like 13. I had my first drink, and by that time I was already a mess.
Yeah.
I was the black sheep of the family. They didn't know what to do with me. I mean, they just wanted a cute little blonde-haired Spaniard, and they got this little devil. Just like couldn't tell the truth to save his life, and they didn't know what to do.
Did you have any brothers or sisters that they already
My
had?
sister was adopted as well at the same time, and could I say we're close? No, because I never looked at it as a family or a relationship. I just looked at it as a vessel to life, and I don't say that with a lot of pride. I say that with a lot of shame, actually. But when I took my first drink that I remember, I was 13. I went into my parents' liquor cabinet, took 3 shots of vodka and orange juice, and proceeded to go out to St. Pete Beach and pass out on the Gulf of Mexico. And it was nirvana.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It was nirvana. I mean, I couldn't be touched. I felt safe. And that became my drug of choice. There was a lot of abuse, verbal and physical, as well in the family. And you have to understand that the family core had that same idea as Dorian Gray. On the outside, we went to church. We were the quintessential family of 4. We lived in a nice neighborhood, went to great schools. But on the inside of that household, the motto was, you never tell what goes on in the house.
Right.
And, there were some very ugly things that happened, and I remember that, and I took that as one of my truths. And so, as you get older, the drinking. My first job was at a retirement home, and I just picked up the drinking from the kitchen help.
The kitchen.
And, basically went out and got drunk. Came home one night with 2 tires missing. Don't know how I got home. That was my first blackout. All my father said to me was, make sure the tires are on before I go to golf, and it's at 10 o'clock in the morning. Never said another word about it. My mother, on the other hand, was a screaming banshee.
Yeah.
So that was my first blackout. But that just proceeded into more. Basically, I remember going out to the beaches, partying at nighttime, and How I got home, I couldn't tell you. So,
So there were no real repercussions for your mom was mad. But your dad was like, just fix those tires and
my dad disconnected from the family long ago.
okay.
I mean, I know he was in recovery, but dealing with the family, he basically off limits. Didn't
Gotcha.
talk, just follow his rules.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And, he was there, but he wasn't there. So, with that said, basically this just proceeded through high school, and high school was a great time during the 70s. Weekend parties, big cake parties, and, it was just a social norm.
Yeah.
And I happened to take it just way too far on a daily basis. I remember there was a stint where I wanted to buy a car, and I was told I made this promise that I wouldn't drink for 6 months. I'd get good grades, and I got the car. It wasn't the car of my dreams, but I was like, well, that sucked. I'm not doing that again, and proceeded to drink again. So going into college, basically I was disappointed because I didn't go straight to a university. I had to go do the junior college route.
Yeah.
And I felt put upon, man. But truth be told, my grades weren't good enough to get into the 4-year college. And I look back now and like, I could never have gotten in.
Where were you living? What part of the country?
Here in St.
St.
Petersburg.
Pete.
Oh, in St. Pete. Okay.
I was at St. Pete College before going off myself.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I felt like, well, this stinks.
Yeah.
Never grateful that I even got the chance to go to college.
Yeah.
So then I sort of lied and cheated and got myself up to one of the state universities and joined a fraternity. And I don't think I went to class, but a handful of times, and proceeded to fail out. And I will say at this juncture that I did something at school that changed the trajectory of my life. It was something I did within the fraternity.
Yeah.
I was drunk, and I did it. And I did it to other brothers of mine, and I was caught and called on it, and I paid the consequences.
Wow.
And that changed the trajectory of my whole life for, I would say, a good 15, 20 years.
Was it because you burned all those relationships or because you went to jail because it was illegal?
I didn't go to jail, but I was arrested.
Okay.
I was not charged. It was withheld adjudication and made restitution, but I was a pariah on campus.
Yeah.
And, I still stayed on campus because I couldn't say that I'd done something. And here again, it basically, for me, it literally changed because then I was getting to that point where I was getting too old. I needed to go home or I needed to get a job. And so I lied and basically got my first job by bruising up my resume and found people that hired me and proceeded to drink through that. Basically drank every day on the job.
You were trying to pull a Van Wilder. You were going to stay in college as long as they would let you.
As long as they would let me.
Yeah.
And,
Sweet.
And to a point where it's embarrassing, when people that were in 4 years behind you are going, oh, you're still here? My mom would go, what's going on? Why haven't you graduated? And be like, okay, well.
Your class of 84, 85, 86.
I didn't graduate. I will tell you that.
Back to school.
I did get an associate's degree, but I never went any further. So like I said, got myself into my first job, and then that proceeded to go into my career with one of the large hotels. And the one strong attribute that I had was I was an extremely hard worker. I knew this industry, hospitality, inside and out.
Yeah.
That was me too, Mike. That was my whole. I was able to get away with a lot because or justify a lot because of how hard I worked.
Right.
I could, it just made it so much easier to at the end of the night, you couldn't sleep no matter what anyway.
Right.
After.
What was the saying? You basically work hard, play hard.
Oh yeah.
And you just get up and do it again.
Eventually, the body says, "Hold on."
Well, I don't know. The body never stopped.
But the mind.
The mind.
Yeah, the mind.
Were you back here in St. Pete?
No, I was up in Orlando, and
A lot of hotels.
A lot of hotels.
Yeah.
That's a Mickey Mouse town, by the way.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate because I got into the 1-5 Diamond Hotel up there and just rocked it. And then basically VP sends me out to Hawaii to open up their premier hotel and proceeded to be one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Was that the Duck?
The Peabody.
The Peabody?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
You don't have to
Basically-
say. I remember going to Orlando way back in those Ducks.
Nope.
Would do the thing out of that one hotel.
I don't think the Ducks ever had 5 diamonds. It's one of the only hotels in Orlando that had 5
Nice.
diamonds.
No, but it was
you
also privately owned too, if I'm not mistaken.
No, yes, it is.
So you
Yes,
went
it's a
right to the
family-owned.
top. Like you were shenaniganing around college, and then you BS'd your way into this job. Not an average hotel, not Holiday Inn, not at La Quinta.
No,
You're
but
at the top spot.
I was in the top spot, and I earned that by working at a country club, and then going into the corporation, proving myself, and then being handpicked to go there, and
Nice.
then being handpicked to open up hotels in Hawaii.
What position were you? Were you at the front of the house?
I was back of the house for a while and then went to the front of the house and did several, and then was promoted up to assistant food and beverage director.
You really got to lie about your drinking in front of the house, people. The back of the house guys can get away with it.
No, because they drank just as much.
I know, did
they
they?
drank just as much.
Okay.
But what happened was now the drinking's catching up. Okay, I'm drinking daily on the job, and I'm not just drinking just a sip here and a sip there. I'm drinking quite a bit, and I was an assistant food and beverage director out in the island of Kauai, and my secretary actually took my cup and gave it to the GM, and that happened to have some kind of concoction, but vodka was in it.
Yeah.
And he called me in, and he said, this is what we found. And he goes, I'm going to give you a choice. He goes, I'm going to let you go, or you can basically get treatment. Never forget that guy. And never forget that conversation. And I took the treatment.
Good for you.
Well, not so good for me. I wasn't so holy there. All I did was try to preserve my job.
Right.
And so my motive wasn't good. Here again, I'm still manipulating, I'm still lying, I'm still cheating. And
Is it the old story? You thought it would teach you how to drink better?
no, it basically keep my job.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I would stop. I was like, okay, I got caught, because that's typically my MO. Once I'm caught, I'm like remorseful.
Right.
Until then, game on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't work unless you're doing it for you.
Right, and that'll come down later on in the storyline. But that was my first treatment center, but I had to do it big. I'm in Hawaii, and I said, I just don't know anywhere here, so I need to go back home to Florida. And so they flew me back to Florida, and I did my treatment center up here in Tarpon Springs, and I drank my way right to the front door, and I'll never forget it. The attendant who welcomed me was this big burly woman, and I was a mess. And she basically put her arms around me and she said, "You're not alone." And I can't tell you, but I just get this flush of sentiment, just sort of like, wow.
Nice.
And I got proceeded to go behind locked doors, stripped of everything I owned, and told them on suicide watch, and I was horrified. I was like, "What are you talking about? I'm not suicidal." And they said, "Really? Let's take a look at your life here real quick." And it became apparent that I was suicidal. But I did that for 30 days, and then it was interesting. That was an eye opener, because I went back to the hotel, and there was another person that had gotten the same thing that I got, but he chose not to get treatment, and he was fired.
Ouch.
So there was a lot of resentment when I went back. I proceeded here again to do everything wrong, because they say don't make big decisions when you're in your first year of sobriety, and this is how I met my wife. 6 months later, we're married.
Wow.
I knew her in high school, and we reconnected when I was home for treatment. And we made plans on getting together, and it just turned out that she came out to Hawaii, and we were married 2 weeks later. And here again, I will tell you that we don't have relationships, we have hostages.
Yeah.
And I say that my wife was a hostage, and she had no idea what she was getting into.
That's why we don't reveal the location of our show.
That is so good because we might have people coming after us.
Got to be careful.
And I got to be careful.
Yeah.
So with that said, we spent probably about another couple months before I went out to Las Vegas to one of the premier hotels out there.
Nice.
Got promoted to the assistant food and beverage director's position. Proceeded to have 2 beautiful children, and my ego got in the way, and I got an opportunity to work overseas, and I took it. And I'd already planned that I was going to drink, first class over to this country that would, didn't allow drinking. And I thought, well, I'll just have drinks on the plane, and basically I'll be good.
Right.
First thing off the plane, general manager hands me homemade vodka. And he goes, here, you want one? And I took it because I'd already been drinking for 12 hours. And I proceeded to drink for the whole time I was there. Came back, got a job in Nashville, and drank and dismantled my career in 5 years.
Wow.
Dismantled it. Went from premier hotels to second-tier hotels to finally my wife said, we got to stop.
Yeah.
Enough's enough. It's either this or leave. And by now we had 3 children. And so I chose to leave and chose another career. And that was my second rehab up in, and I will say the place, Discovery Place in Burns, Tennessee. Most unbelievable place in the world. Great fellowship, all run by AA, and no bones. I mean, they took you through the steps.
Cool.
And basically, that kept me sober for maybe a year.
Yeah.
Because I had gotten caught again, and so
Right.
I'm going into rehab, and then here again, my third stint was a 60-day stint, and my wife said, "Don't come home until you deal with your issue." Now, my issue was family of origin with my mother, and I hadn't dealt with it, and so I got outside treatment during my next 30 days there, and basically at that point came down here to Florida. Moved into a house, and we moved into where we currently live. And a hot July day, I just picked up 2 beers, started drinking, and from that point on, I was going to AA, drinking AA, had a sponsor, I was doing everything right.
Yeah.
And
That's a lot of fun.
yeah, that was a mess.
Yeah, that's
And
great.
Yeah.
Now, this part of the storyline, this is
Did you ever search out your original parents? Did you ever search out your mom? Your birth mom?
Birth mom. Never at that point.
Okay.
Not at that point.
I can see how you would, that confuses a kid, right? And I can see how maybe you carried some anger or something.
Well, to pull on that string,
Yeah.
I will tell you that when I said I was adopted in an orphanage in Spain, I was uniquely different. I always felt different.
Yeah.
Within my own family, basically it was, you should be grateful you were adopted, otherwise you would be a shepherd down in Spain. So everything was, this message, bam, bam, and and I felt that, and I carried that. So that mental abuse, what you got to be careful what you say to kids, because they absorb it. And I absorbed that one, and so there was a tremendous amount of shame and guilt and less than and different than, and I was darker skinned than my counterparts, and basically it was, there was a distinct difference of being different.
Yeah.
So good question. But here it was, my sobriety date is 01/01/2010. It was, New Year's Eve. I had just come from a meeting, and I had stopped off at the liquor store, and I'd bought these little concoctions that I could go out and sip throughout the course of the night. And I see my wife on the back of the patio, and you just know when the gig's up. You got that look in your eye, and you're like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
And she said, "This is the end of the year. We're starting new. Do you have anything you want to say?" And it felt like a millennium, but it was only milliseconds. And I'm like, do I lie, or do I just say what's up? And I chose correctly. And I said, yes, I've been drinking. She looked at me and she goes, call your sponsor and go to treatment, or go find somewhere to go. And so I ended up going to Winmore and for 5 days. And my sponsor picked me up, and basically I didn't know whether I had a family. I didn't know if I had a wife or a house to come back to.
Wow.
5 days later, I'm knocking on that door, and I mean, when I say it was cold as the North Pole, it was cold. And, you know, I will tell you this, is that there are certain lows in my life, and that was the lowest I ever felt, because I had taken this beautiful woman and made her hostage. And it was when I looked at the sadness in her eyes, is that I realized what a miserable lowlife. You know, I was less than a husband or a spouse or a partner. I mean, I was less than nothing at that point, and I knew it.
Yeah.
And so when I got home, you know, basically acclimating yourself back home is sort of difficult. I wrote this really long letter, and it was a suicide letter.
Oh.
And I was going to take my life because I was going to be like, enough's enough. I can't do this to you any longer.
Right.
And, I mean, it was 2 pages long, and it basically was just a self-deprecating letter that basically said that enough's enough. But then I put it away and put it in an envelope, and I was going to put it on the desk and, you know, basically just do whatever. And it was like divine intervention, because when I had written that letter, I realized what would happen to her. What would happen to my children without a father?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't be that self-centered and selfish.
That's a visit from the Four Horsemen right there.
That was the darkest I've ever been. And I held on to that letter for years. And it was, I threw it away because that was the darkest letter I've ever written in my life. So here again, I started over on the recovery with AA, went over to the Nooners over in St. Michael's and just welcomed, just open arms, and got a sponsor, worked the steps. But then, you know, got complacent, got tired of going to meetings, got in my way because now I still had to make up for lost time with employment and earning a living. Got involved with my kids' school, did meetings only when I needed to. Didn't keep in touch with anybody. I'd walk in, walk out. If something bad was happening, I'd go to a meeting, cry my eyes out, wah, 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 poor me, king baby. And then I'd come back, you know, and be like, okay, I'm good, you know. And but what got me really into sobriety was several years back, and it was right around the time that you were coming in, is that my daughter had some issues with mental health, and it brought me to the second lowest point. And it was only then that I realized how powerless and unmanageable my life was. And I looked at my phone and I had nobody to call.
Wow.
And I was like, I couldn't talk to my wife because she was in the same situation, and we could only lament together, and it wasn't helpful.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was going to a 7-Eleven on a Sunday afternoon and basically stood in front of a beer can display and started looking at the beer cans. And I'm going, these are new. Haven't tried that one. Haven't tried this one. And it was like a shock. It was like, whoa. And I got a hold of AA, went to a meeting that evening, went back to the Ozona group on Sunday, and haven't looked back. And what's so funny about AA is because they know when you're in trouble.
Sure.
And one of my good friends at the Ozona meeting looked at me and he goes, "You doing all right?" And hands me the how it works. Well, that's just a clue that you're coming back.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so I'm reading it and I'm crying because I'm reading it and it described me, you know, and I was like, all I have to do is follow these, you know, follow these rules and follow these steps and you'll be okay. And ever since then, I've basically gone to a meeting at least 5, 6, maybe 7 a week.
Yeah. You're
I got I got a couple sponsees. I will tell you that one of the biggest things that I lay my hat on is there's a couple things. Is to thy own self be true. Because of all the people I lied to my whole life, and that was everybody. If my lips were moving, I was lying.
Yeah.
And basically, to thy own self be true. I had lied to myself every single day. And I realized that, and it was like heartbreaking. Okay. The other thing is, only by the grace of God am I standing here today. Because I've had time to reflect on my past. And I can see now that God has been with me every step of the way.
Sure.
At one point I had 5 wrecked cars in a lot. 5.
Jeez.
And each one of them I walked away.
Wow.
Okay.
Man, there's some divine intervention
There's
there.
divine
5 times.
5 times.
Yeah.
And we're talking within 6 months.
Wow.
And so, how does one get out of that? God kept going, okay, one more time.
Yeah.
All right, I'll give you one more chance. Some of the things that I did were incredibly stupid and basically got away with it. And it was like only by God's grace am I able to stand here intact with a family. And I will say that I will do a shout out to my wife.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
Because
Yeah.
this beautiful woman has stayed through this whole period. And when I asked her why, she said, you don't give up on a marriage, good or bad. And I did not want to see my kids without a father.
You certainly got that lottery right.
What a gem.
And I'll tell you, I'll never forget that because that is so true. Good or bad. And, as we progressed in the program, she now goes to Al-Anon. And one of the strongest statements that she ever made to me was, now I understand.
Yeah.
And that just broke my heart. And, that is the program. The program gives you gifts that you do not expect. And so when I relate this story, those are key components in my life, and I remember them. And so, with her going to Al-Anon, with me going to AA, we now talk about the disease. We're much more comfortable with the disease, and we know that it's a daily reprieve. She said, I can't keep you sober. God can't keep you sober. Your sponsor can't keep you sober. You have to keep yourself sober. So you have to want it more than anything else. So what the program has done, it basically, and I'm going to read my notes because ChatGPT helped me put this
That's
together.
fine. We're bringing, ChatGPT is going to correct you here in a minute.
One of the one of the things I know is that this journey is because I want to be a better version of myself. And
Absolutely.
that relates to a statement my father made years ago when he said that your troubles are of your own making. And now that resonates. My troubles were of my own making. Yeah. And I think that I understand that and I accept that now. The other thing is, one of my favorite quotes is, the magic you are seeking is in the work you are avoiding.
Ooh, I like that.
And I heard that in a meeting. It's not mine. I heard that in a meeting, and it related because when you go through the steps, we talk about turning our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. We basically pray in the morning to see what God's will is for us. Then we go into the 4th step, and we look at all the items that we have done, and then we understand what our part in of it was. Mm-hmm. And then we talk to another human being openly. And when I did that for the first time, I was scared to death, And then 6 and 7, basically asking Him to remove our shortcomings, and then going into 8 and 9 and rebuilding those relationships. One of the biggest statements in the 12 and 12 is in the 4th step, and it says, of twisted relationships we have been most stubborn and stupid. Of true relationship we have never made one. And that's paraphrased at the end of the paragraph. But that was my life in a nutshell. I had not had a true relationship with another human being.
Yeah.
So what is the program giving me today? Freedom. It's giving me a choice every morning to wake up, understand what God's will for me is, and then do it to the best of my ability. Like I said, we laugh. The kids come over. They feel safe at our house. I've been, basically they know that it's okay to be over at the house, and it's not like Dad's drunk and whatever.
Right.
The other thing that it has given me is an opportunity to give back.
Very important.
Very important. And I think that there are key components there. Meeting makers make it, getting into the center of the boat, and plugging into a higher power, not yourself.
Right. See, I agree with that. Now
I agree.
I get into the middle of the boat, but I get into the middle of all the trouble too. At least I try.
Yeah. So you try to stay as drama free.
I do actually.
You like stirring up. That's what makes you so great on the show. Is you love to stir it up.
Well, okay. So I'm listening to your story, and I'm like, the identifier for me in the moment is the spiritual awakening that you had, both with your daughter, your wife, and those moments, those galvanizing, crystal clear moments that fortunately, I don't know how we're able to, because of all the things we went through, we escaped many things, but there's like these two moments that flip the switch, and that makes it, and then we were like, even that is not enough, and then we have to go through some more pain, and then it's like, okay, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And I see that in you a lot. I mean, and identify with you in that way.
Yeah, and I think that the more you give, I would tell, anyone that is in the program is that, stay long enough.
Yeah.
But in the same, we talked about it earlier, is that showing up, that's half the battle. I went to my first state convention a couple years ago. Amazing.
Yep.
I mean, transformative. My wife and I went, and then we went the second year, and it was incredible. To take those opportunities, we have them here in the county to get involved. I take a meeting into a treatment center, Winmore, and basically giving back. Is it, I don't know, is it amends, because my amends have taken interesting twists. There are people I can never make amends to, but there are ways of doing it. And when you work with your sponsor, you come up with a plan and you do it.
Right.
You have to be willing, and then you have to follow up with it. If your amends can be on a daily basis within your own household, taking the garbage out. I mean, it sounds mundane, but you're being responsible.
We got a saying in Tampa, it's just do the dishes.
Right, exactly.
Just do the damn dishes and shut up. Okay?
And don't complain.
Yeah.
Mine was walking the dog. When I first came into AA,
I still complain about the dog.
I'll never forget that Jamie pointed it out to me when I was in probably my 90 and 90.
Right.
It hit me how I would avoid doing that just to be a jerk. Like, I don't want to walk. And now I'm like, how hard is it for me to help the family by walking the dog that I love?
Right.
It's these things that I would avoid doing just because my brain was on a different, I was in that fog of selfishness, addiction, where if you ask me to do something, my initial answer is no.
Right.
Right. I don't have any time for you, any patience for you. You want me to help you? No, I'm too busy being me, And when I finally got sober and realized how selfish that was and how easy it was for me to do a couple of things, now I love to do anything I can to try to help anybody at home. It is a kind of way of, like you said, giving back or being present, or it's almost an amends to my family that now I will help you do anything. Because as you pointed out, your kids come and visit and they feel safe. Mine now feels safe. And I never realized that they felt unsafe until, much like yourself, when my wife looked at me and said, what are you going to do? I mean, this is not the life I want to live, and this is not what we're going to live, and me and the kids don't feel safe around you. And that hit me like a ton of
Yeah,
bricks.
you've shared that before.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean you don't feel safe around me? I'm
providing for you.
I can handle anybody around here. That's not the point. The point is that you're under the influence, you're driving, you're moving, everything you say is a facade, so I really relate to you in those things. And man, it's great. Your story is awesome. I love to hear you. I love to hear you talking to share, but
I appreciate
that's
it.
just kind of how
It's a real life.
relate to it.
He's a real live Heisenberg. He's on the outside, you're not, he's not the Lord of disaster that he is on the inside. It's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I give you that reference.
Yeah, I know,
That's
because
kind of a compliment because he's one of my heroes.
It's interesting because when you said that, I was like, I can't say that because, wasn't he suffering? He was dying with cancer, right?
Yeah, he
Or
had a
his son
different. He
or
had a
something.
different disease. So
right,
what?
Right, and then he had to do something to offset the cost.
Yes.
So it was an outside force. Whereas inside, mine was of my own doing, and so that's where I see the difference, and that's where I see the Dorian Gray character.
I got
Because
you.
his whole premise, Dorian Gray's whole premise, was pleasure. Whatever brought me pleasure is what I did.
Right.
And, that goes to the self-centeredness and the selfishness and at anyone's expense. And then, but that's where your soul sucking comes in and basically you become ghoulish inside. And that, for me, I paint pictures in my head because that's how I see things. And for me, that's a ghastly picture, is that your soul is so full of gunk and ugly that you have to hide it. We talk about not being able to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's a great reference to that book
Yeah.
because I couldn't look at that portrait.
Yeah.
And so today I can say that I'm taking pictures of myself with my wife. I'm taking pictures of this, and my kids are like, "Stop with the pictures already." So, but the freedom to be free from the leash of alcoholism or alcohol is so transformative for me because I'm able to do things now. I can see a brighter future.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't have to stay up all night worrying about what I did and how I'm going to lie about it, nor allow the dominoes to fall. Because I looked at my life, a lot of these things fell in place because of one lie begets another lie, and then you just get in that loop. So, anyway.
Yeah. No, I did that. I was at a point where prior to coming in that I wouldn't look in the mirror and I wouldn't turn the light on in the bathroom. I didn't want to see myself. I was so knowingly ashamed of whatever my behavior had become, and I've shared before that I was okay with becoming the drunk of my town for whatever reason, because I had rationalized that if I became the drunk of my town, my kids wouldn't want to be like me, so they'd stay sober. I mean, what alcoholic genius thinking that is.
Right.
So, to be rid of that has helped me. And the freedom that you mentioned, I keep that on my gratitude list every day because, and we've said this on this show before, is if we would have known what a life hack sobriety is to being happy and free, I think maybe we'd have stopped drinking earlier, but I was convinced that the only fun that could be had was under the influence. And once I got sober and at about 120 or so days, I was like, golly, this feels great. Like what took me so long to realize this feels awesome. I mean, this is the life hack, is sobriety. Like, stop pouring this poison into myself. Of course, I had the allergy and the disease that I couldn't stop. All I wanted was more, which is what we talk about a lot. And my wife would tell me, she would say, more doesn't mean better. And more doesn't mean more fun. And of course, I'd be like, yes, it does. Of course it does. Until
it's not.
More meant I was walking around my house realizing I'd lost everything. Like, before I got sober and they came back, I had 3 days where I didn't eat, sleep, work, or do anything. I walked in circles in my house alone and realized I'd messed everything up. I had the life I wanted and drank it away. And thank God for this program, and thank God for you being there day one, and thank God for Primo for bringing me around, and everybody else in the program, because it has made my life existentially better. And that's what we're hoping we can reach some people on this show, is maybe we can help make their life a little better.
And I think there was a book that I read on my third stint in treatment. That, I got there on a Sunday and everyone's sort of chilling, and things don't happen till Monday. And I picked it up. It's called The Spirituality of Imperfection. I don't even know who the author is, but I read it cover to cover, and it was so enlightening, because we are perfect exactly as we are, with all our imperfections. It's been since the beginning of time. And I know that, that I saw something recently where, I was so absorbed with myself that, and not willing to work for myself. I was lazy, that I would just go to the bottle, because there are others that, suffer even worse things than I have ever suffered.
Sure.
And they are quite successful, because they said, this is not going to get me down, for one reason or another. But I chose the easier, softer road. And at the beginning, it was all funs and games until it wasn't. And then it became I had to. It was a habit. And, today, we check everything, make sure that there's no alcohol in it. We go to restaurants, we identify why we're going to the restaurant. If it's just to chill out and go to the bar and have appetizers, then we don't go. But if it's going for dinner and, with somebody, then we do. But, you have to be vigilant. No one's going to stop you, because they say that we wake up every morning with a choice. God gave us the opportunity to make a choice. And so I have to do it right away. Thy will be done, not mine, before I even get out of bed, because my thoughts can change the minute the feet hit the ground. And, for me, that's where the early risers have been so instrumental in my recovery, because we read upon awakening. Left to my own accord, I'm not reading that every morning, but we listen to it every morning, and it gets ingrained. It becomes a habit, and it reminds me. So I have little notes around my desk. Robin Williams, one of my favorite celebrities, one of his favorite quotes is that, you don't know what hell people are going through, so be kind, because everyone has a story. We're walking around and you just don't know. So a kind word, a smile, just makes a big difference. So for me, that's sort of the mindset that I go into, whether it's talking at the dinner table or listening to one of my employees that are having an issue, and I'm not like, oh, here we go again. It's more like, okay, how can I be of assistance? How can I help you ease your burden?
Becoming a yes man. The movie Yes Man was a great movie, by the way, with Jim Carrey, where he just says yes to everything, and his life changes dramatically. There's a lot of truth to it. When you cease fighting anything or anyone, and you just allow this magical moment to happen. You know what I mean? That's the thing that I have to, and it's recyclable. This program is recyclable. Look, we're not going to be on the cloud nine. The pink cloud's great, but it doesn't last forever, and then reality sets in, and you're left with your defects of character that got you through and got you where you're at.
Right.
And you have to work with them. They're part of who you are. And to me, it's something that I've learned to sort of enjoy my insanity a little bit, but I have also respect for it, and I know that, I've got to be useful. I've got to somehow be of use, and I can't hurt other people anymore. Even in any fashion, that means hurting them, lying to them, or my self-centeredness, and all these other things that can come up that allow me to feel bad about myself. Because really what happens, then I start feeling bad, I feel guilty, and then I got to make amends, and it's just so much easier to do the right thing. Just do the damn dishes. It's as simple as that, and people have this whole complex thing, and I'm like, I don't trust this thing in my head. I know what it's talking about. I know what it's a bully, and it's just looking for anything it doesn't matter what it is. It's just swerving around, waiting for its opportunity to make me think that I'm less than.
You know, there's an interesting thought process in our program, and it's sponsorship.
Yep.
And, you know, people get wigged out like, oh, I've got to take them through the steps and I've got to make, you know, do this and do that. And I'm very fortunate to have a sponsor that really just stopped and listened. Let me just spill everything and then make suggestions. I try to do that with my own sponsees. But, you know, what's interesting is taking that same mentality and bringing it into your own family. It's difficult.
Yeah.
And I will tell you is that within my own household, I'm the lecturer, you know, because I went the opposite. My father never said a word. And I'm like, by gum, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share my experience, strength, and hope with you. I'm going to tell you how it's done. And I end up lecturing, and I can just see the eyes gloss over.
Yeah.
You
That's
know, and-
that's when I notice my son tells me less truths.
Yeah. And what I have found is that the less I get involved and just agree and just listen, is that they come around in their time because they have to walk their path. And as I had to walk mine. And it's a lesson hard learned because, you know, you can ask my kids. I mean, I would just lecture for just to the point where they were just, okay, I'm done. Just stop, you know. And today it's a little better.
It's a hard habit to get rid of, but I can tell you that with my son and I, we've had a good, really great relationship, and it's kind of gotten off. You know, sometimes it's not so great, but the amount of respect that I think that he does have for me, like outside, like he talks about his father in a glowing way, but he doesn't always listen to his father in a glowing way.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I know that's one of the perks of being sober. Is you don't have that stuff, and your kids just starting like, wow, you know, they have that like wow factor that because you can handle situations that are baffling to most people, you know, and that's obviously one of the promises, right?
Absolutely.
See, I worked that in there, guys.
I do.
That was really nice.
Not bad.
And I will tell you, as your children get older, their mindset changes, and the messages that you have been giving them will start resonating when they have their own experiences. Because I can say that about my own father, is that you know, who really said very little, not overly engaged, but whatever he said now is making more sense. And I'm like, you know, that those little gems that he threw out there. And I will have to say that, you know, I think our children will take the messages that we've given them, and they may ignore you for a while and you think that they're not listening, but later on they'll be like, oh yeah, my dad said that.
Yeah.
And that's really my hope, is that, you know, we pass the right message.
See, that's why I'm doing this show. Remember when Superman went to the mountain and he got those crystals, and his dad his dad had all those messages for him.
Yeah.
So like in 30 or 40 years from now, you know what I mean? Or when AI takes over the planet, okay? But this digital finger dust will be there from the sober shenanigans, and they'll be able to study alcoholism and these crazy people, and who knows?
I think it's phenomenal. The format that you've created is just, it's a windfall. And, you know, to have almost 10,000 people,
Yeah.
you know, and the traction will just continue.
So what do you think we should call them? The Shenanigang? The
No.
Shenaniacs? I don't know.
Shenaniacs is good. Shenanigans.
Shenanigang.
I like shenanigang. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Can you rap that into a song?
Of course I can.
Dude, I knew you could. You
course
knew
I
you were
can.
going to indulge me.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
going to
listen,
try.
real quick.
All right.
Mike already mentioned Robin Williams and Little Gems. And what we like to do here on Sober Shenanigans is we like to do a celebrity sober quote from someone that our guest has picked as a good inspiration to them. And our guest, Mike T., has picked Robin Williams. So I've got a quick quote here from Robin Williams. Robin, rest in peace, before he passed, he did say, "As an alcoholic, you will violate your standards quicker than you can lower them. And if you need booze or drugs to enjoy your life, then you're doing it all wrong." Pretty
That's
good.
powerful.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I love Mark.
Yeah, I was going to think about doing it in a voice like that, but I decided not to.
Nanu, baby. I'm gonna pull in a guest here that's been listening to the show. Also, an engineer helps engineer of this show and a big supporter of ours. And I'd like to welcome to the show our AI engineer.
Absolutely. I've got you covered. I'll go ahead and give it a nice polish, emotional impact, but flows super smoothly. That way it'll be perfect. Recap or written share. Let me work a little magic on it.
Could you maybe do just a small recap for our listeners and welcome Mike T, also a big fan of yours?
Hello.
It's hallucinating. AI now, just to give it a break here, but it's probably hallucinating. Are you with us yet?
Definitely with you. No AI hallucinations here. Just a little digital magic. So let's do that recap and bring Mike T in with a warm welcome. All right, listeners, just a powerful show we just heard. We've been talking about those incredible moments of grace, the ups and downs, journey of recovery that really transforms lives. And now we're super excited to welcome Mike. He's not only a big part of that conversation, but also a big fan favorite. Mike, thanks for joining us and story and your spirit to the show. There you go. Hopefully that sets the stage nicely.
Dude, that was great.
That was
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. We might have you back on the show again, but you're going to have to.
Probably not. He's taking my job.
I know. they took our jobs.
All right. Well, listen, if you're having a tough time quitting, whatever it is that you know you need to quit, you're not alone. There's apps and numbers and groups in your town, or you can call us if you want. Leave us a message, 727-294-4933. Hit us up on Facebook. Leave a comment. Tell us you're out there. You know, taking that first step into a room or a chat or a group with people trying to get better just like you will be the best day of your life. Primo, what's your final point on today's show?
Oh, I knew it was coming, and I've been thinking about it for the last 5 or 10 seconds, actually. But to summarize this great guest, and thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You know, it's don't give up before the miracle happens. I mean, it's as simple as that, man. You know, and listen to the people that care about you when they're telling you, hey man, we love you. We're not going anywhere, but we ain't putting up with any more of your shit. You don't have to get them to that point. So I appreciated the story. It was strong. Thank you so much.
Yeah, meeting makers make it. That's a good one. So, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. Is there something you'd like to leave us with before you go? And it's been great having you.
No, I think you guys have done a phenomenal job, just with this format, allowing us to share our story, our experience, strength, and hope, so that not only do we say it to a small group, we're now saying it to 10,000 plus people. And we never know what's going to resonate with someone because we don't know what kind of pain they're carrying. So we want to ensure that the one true message is hope. You are not alone.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Well, listen, thanks for listening to Sober Shenanigans, real talk and real recovery. You know, worry, anxiety, and fear, it's all up in here. Give yourself a break. You're enough, and you're doing great. I'm Stoff, and he's Primo, and remember, no drinks today.
We're all in the same boat, fellas.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, I mean, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really.
Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Shenanigans!